Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of the Weekly Stoke. I'm so excited to get back into the action and bring you guys behind the scenes of what happens down in the tune shop here at SSCV. So Paul Sumi, thank you so much for taking the time today to help us out here as we go through a couple of tune lessons, even a bass grind, and just kind of go what goes into every day that you're on the hill to make sure that you're successful. So thank you so much, Paul.
Yeah, thank you, Parker.
So just to get started, what do you think is the most important thing when you're getting ready to train every day? Because tuning is a huge part of what ski racers need to be successful.
Yeah, so our key word down here is consistency. So we want to see, training day to race day, everything else, your skis are going to be exactly the same.
Okay.
So that's flat bases, base bevel accurate, and side edge bevel, and wax is there, but it's not that big of a deal.
Awesome. And so would you be able to walk us through what we would do for a perfect tuning day?
Sure, can do, absolutely. So we have a great partnership with Ski Clavel within the Wintersteiger Mercury, and what we're seeing here is basically a stone grind edge, or a stone grind unit and edge unit that basically flattens the ski, puts the structure on, and then puts your base bevel and side edge bevels on at the same time. So this has been a huge key, because obviously this thing is a big robot, and this saves a lot of man hours on how we go through things. So there's basically, with flattening the ski, it goes through a lot of different steps. So we basically have 1, 2, 3 steps here, but we're gonna see a lot of passes to actually get these skis flat. And out of the plastic, your general, Fisher ski, Rosignol ski, whatever else, is not flat, because basically things twist and torque as they come out of the mold, and they're not true by the time they hit the US soil. So we want to make sure that those things are flat by the time you get on snow with them, and then keep those things flat through your training and racing days.
So with the grind, just so we have it all clear, you would normally need to get your skis ground right before you start training on them when they're brand new. Yes. How often do you recommend the skis get ground throughout the season?
3 to 4 times a year.
All right, so now that the skis are in place, we're gonna set up the machine and get them grinding.
Out very quickly. So anytime that we're setting basically your bases are flat, your base bevel is set, and we just set the side edges. So there's a slight hanger or a burr on the base edge, so we want to take care of that too. And all we're going to do is basically manipulate that just a little bit one way or the other. So we want to do a base edge pass, a side edge pass, base edge pass, and side edge pass. So what that's doing is not necessarily removing the burr, but it's manipulating it, it's taking it down, and it's making it a little bit less aggressive. And even on our, on a day-to-day basis, when you are sharpening side edges at home, you want to make sure that you take care of that burr and or hanger to make sure that it's not too catchy and grabby.
And so a lot of people have heard about the hanger, this overhang on the edges. And what tool did you just use to try and remove that?
This is a very, very fine ceramic stone. This is from Swix. There's a handful of other manufacturers that make these also. You actually have a roll-on waxer that we apply wax with. Basically, we are a production facility down here, but we are high quality race production. So any little second that we can obviously save is huge to us. So this is infrared waxing, so this goes into the wax feature from Wintersteiger, and this is basically doing the job that an iron would without
having to physically iron.
Wasting a bunch of wax too.
And so you mentioned high quality, and that's a huge part of what you guys try to do here down in the tool shop at SSCV. Is there a big difference in a way that you can raise your game and make it high quality if you're just tuning at home?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, when it all comes down to it, so flat basses and bass bevel is something that Joe Schmo at home cannot do. You've got to come see an expert like us or any other regional shop that you have to get a great bass, like basically bass grind and bass bevel set, and then you can basically do hand edges at home all that you want or all that you need through the season. But basically, like what we're seeing right now is, I would say, like 1 out of 100 days that your skis need to come back to us for a bass grind through the season.
So we just finished the whole grind process. That ski's ready. You've shown us how important it is to have a smooth edge, but also to remove that hanger. And so now the ski is ready to be prepped for training day.
Yes, absolutely. Really simple. At the end of the day, training day and race day is exactly the same, other than race wax, which you end up with the going into high fluoro, or not necessarily next year zero fluoro, but a different combination of wax. So that's the only thing that really at the end of the day is going to make your race day a little bit different. So obviously you want your edges to be the same, you want your the binding setup to be the same, you want everything to be basically the same. Equipment at the end of the day is one of those variables that you can control as an athlete, and why not take an opportunity to do that? It'll take you a little bit of time out of your day, but at the end of the day, that's one thing that is going to be exactly the same. You may wake up and be a little bit drowsy, or you may not eat enough the next, the following day or whatever else, but equipment's really simple.
Yeah, control the uncontrollables.
Exactly.
There you go.
Yeah, so awesome.
So we have all of our equipment back here, and Paul is going to go through a couple of tips and tricks for when you're doing your at-home tuning, stuff that goes into stoning, filing, and then of course brushing and waxing to make sure that you're ready for your optimizing time on the hill. Right, so how do we go forward with our tuning?
So once your base is flat and your bass bevel is set, that you're going to want to do from your normal ski shop that you trust at home, side edge beveling is what you're going to do on a daily basis. So never touch the bass bevel once you've accomplished that from the shop, because basically that's really your traction, I'd say at least. Your side edge is obviously going to hone that edge and keep it sharp from a day-to-day basis. So what we have here, we just saw what the machine can do, but this is basically the sequence of what we're going to do at home to achieve the same kind of finish that a Wintersteiger machine can do. And so the number 1 file, this is basically to set an edge, very, very rough. Like we're actually creating an angle at this point. Comes into a number 2 file, which is like 16 tooth per centimeter, given that. So every 3rd day, I would say use one of these. But in the meantime, you can accomplish a lot from 200, 400, 600, and also a ceramic. So coming in with a 200, basically all you need to do is polish that edge. And what you're doing is just bringing that profile back, and you can go back and forth with this and achieve a lot. So that's a little bit of 200, 400.
And so an important trick when tuning is using this base bevel and file guide, right? To make sure that you're using the correct angle.
Yeah, so your guide, like, you know, basically what I'm doing right now is creating pressure towards the ski and just a little bit of downward pressure just to make sure that the tool is doing the work. And that's really, really key when it comes down to it. Make sure that the tool actually does the work for you and you're not forcing the tool to do the work.
So now as we move through our stones, we're getting to our more finer stones, right? And that creates more of a smooth edge.
Yep, so right now, like, we've already set our edge, we know that our 3 degree is there, and we're just polishing. So at this point, we are now, again, just like the machine is doing, creating a hanger or a downward base bevel. Not base bevel, but sidedge bevel, I'm sorry. So we want to make sure that we manipulate that again and bring that back to sharp. And I'm going to take 2 passes on this. And there you go, Parker. One edge versus the next.
We're gonna feel it. Ooh, nice.
So you know, there's definitely some things that you can do at home, obviously, to keep up on your maintenance. You don't need to come to a facility like us every day, but I would, you know, absolutely check in with us once a month, like you do, just to make sure that everything's key and base bevels are correct and everything else. But you know, you can do a hell of a job at home.
All right, so once you've done your edges, you've done your prep, important part is then waxing, keeping the ski in good shape, the base is fast and moist, etc.
Yep. So
can you go through some of the steps, one if they're already waxed, scraping, and then how you would go about waxing your skis?
So waxing in general, I mean, it's just like putting oil in your car, right? We want to make sure that the base is saturated. It's kind of one of those preventative maintenance things. But at the same time, yeah, it makes your skis fast too. So, you know, within waxing, this is probably the simplest part of this whole ski preparation process. So, you know, like summer waxing, for example, you want to make sure, and this is just kind of what I do every day anyways, is just make sure that all the wax is off the edges. And especially if you're storing skis, the wax can actually get in, basically trap moisture and rust your edges while you're trying to summer wax your skis and preventative maintenance on the, you know, on that part. But that's not necessarily what we want to do. So, you know, as long as the bases are saturated, there's wax in there, we're all good to go.
Perfect, and as we're winding down to the end of the season, that's a really important thing that we can share with our Sink community, that it is important to make sure your skis are waxed as you put them into closing prep, but make sure you take the edges and clean those off so there isn't any trapped moisture.
Exactly. And then scraping's pretty simple. Sharp scraper's great. I go in with a steel right off the bat and just open up the pores a little bit. And then come back in with a nylon for a finish.
So a question that a lot of people may have is the direction of your brushing and your scraping. You'd always want to go tip to tail, correct? And not tail to tip?
Correct. With scraping, absolutely. Every time tip to tail. The big thing with using any kind of metal and brushes, you want to make those directional. That's very important because if you were to strip that backwards, and go the other way, all of a sudden you have base material and you have everything flying everywhere, right? Or stick with a hand brush. You know, very simple also. You know, this is a steel, but at the same time, you can see how much that I'm pulling off. Because at the end of the day, the wax that you really are thinking about and considering that's going to make your base fast is already in your base. So anything that you're removing is for the better. So,
and then another question that a lot of people have when talking about waxing skis is how long should the wax sit on your ski after you wax them?
I would say from 15 to 30 minutes. You can scrape a hell of a lot faster than you think you can.
So hear that, everybody? Let your wax sit for 15 to 30 minutes after you wax your ski before you scrape them. So everybody, we've walked through a step-by-step on how to tune your skis for training, but also get them ground and how often you should get them ground every year. And thanks to Paul, we were able to go through some of the most important things when tuning your skis because yes, equipment is a major part of this sport. So Paul, thank you so much for your time today. And everybody, if you have any questions, we can definitely send them and find out ways to get you answers. But to everybody else listening, thank you so much, and I'll catch you next week on the Weekly Stoke.
Thank you very much, Parker. This has been a pleasure.